I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to AfterBuzz TV's after show for Penny Dreadful: City of Angels. I am your host, Cody Epperson, and I am not alone. I have two amazing co-hosts with me. First of all, the brilliant Tori Weaver.
Hey everyone, I'm definitely excited to get into this episode because there was a lot going on, and if you didn't know what was going on before, you definitely know what's going on now.
Absolutely. And of course, we also have our very insightful panelist, Adam Carr.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This was an incredible episode. If you were like me, I saw some scary images and some things pop up that I was like, oh wow, they're doing that. Okay, so I'm really excited to talk about this episode. This show, seriously, it's so incredibly good. I am so pleasantly and wonderfully surprised that this show is incredible. So happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good show. Like, I remember at the beginning of the first few episodes, we were all like, oh, I don't know about this, but I'm super stoked to be on this panel. I know this episode today, what's it called? Josefina and the Holy Spirit, or Josefina and the Holy Spirit. I personally was very emotional. Like, when I finished the episode, I had to take like a good 30 minutes to kind of like decompress from it. But yeah, guys, like, Tori, what were your overall thoughts on this episode?
I feel like this definitely hit the ground running, and I know that we were talking about the one of these days I'm gonna learn her name, the goddess of less death, but the one that's in the white.
Yeah, we don't know her name.
Trying to like figure out, when she was going to come back, or just kind of like the role that she plays in this, because we're seeing a lot of her, I guess like counterpart, sister, whatever. That's played by Natalie Dormer. We see a lot of her in every episode. So I was just kind of wondering when she was going to come back. And then she came back, and after 5 seconds of her being there, people started dying. And I was like, oh, sis, wait, you can go back to where you were, because that's not what we asked for. So that was actually really sad. I don't know why I thought that like her eye contact with with the young girl was going to like mean something, because it didn't mean anything. So that was just kind of like ripping my heart out. But just the episode in a whole, I definitely think that my prediction of like Natalie Dormer's character just stirring the pot in every corner that she's in, like every corner that she's disguised in, I definitely think that happened in this episode. And I really do think that this episode allowed a lot of the plots to come together, because I know a lot of us, I'm sure not just on this panel, but people viewing, were kind of like, what's really going on? Like, what's the plot here? But I think this one brought a lot of clarity and kind of brought everything full circle. And now you can kind of see how everything connects a little bit better. That was just my opinion. I think it gave a lot of clarity. And now I'm like, okay, this is exactly what's going on, and this is where we're headed.
Oh yeah, and especially with the angel of less death, like we got a glimpse of her for a second, and like you said with the little girl, it seemed like there's something there, and then I think when at the end of that scene she walks off with her, and we'll talk about it later, but there may be a callback to that. But Adam, what were your overall thoughts?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, Santa Muerte, great. You're like, oh wait, that means people are gonna die. So every time she shows up, just like in the initial pilot, she's walking the fields, and at first you think it's something beautiful and cool, and you're like, oh no, she only shows up when death's about to happen. So she's kind of like that angel of death character in American Horror Story, where like if she shows up, it's because she's gonna take someone with her. And I thought she was escorting that child, that little girl. She was making sure that she got to heaven. I feel like that was her connection to that, of just making like, I'll at least protect the innocent children, or make sure that they get to somewhere good, because they shouldn't have been here. But that fact of, it's such an interesting character because she's not bound by Earth's laws or rules or physics. So if you're an immortal goddess just kind of walking around, you're not really bothered by the everyday stuff that people are, because we're busy, we're micromanaging our days, and she's just kind of around, taking people to the next place. But yeah, Tori, like what you were saying, there's a lot in this episode. We have a police molestation, we have a Nazi power bottom, and we have a cop slaying. There's a lot of stuff going on in this episode. So it starts immediately with a death, and unfortunately the death of a child, which is always especially hard to watch, but goes from there to I have the next one is Tiago stops a kid from getting beat up, who we see eventually down the line talking to his little brother Mateo when they go after Officer Riley. But you see our Officer Riley, just beating a kid trying to get a confession or trying to get someone. Cody, what do you think? Officer Riley, you're just kind of like, he's got to eventually go. Like, this guy's just a bad apple.
Well, Officer Riley this is one of those things where, like, for me, like, I hate Officer Riley. He's obviously a nightmare. He's a terrible person. He's racist. He's sexist. He's just all out horrible. And I mean, we see in this episode, we'll get to that point. He is taken out, but I should have looked up his name. I commemorate actors and actresses who can portray characters like this that you just hate so much, because it really shows their skill. And I don't want to give this like horrible racist character like props, but I commend the actor, because it's like, I wanted him gone so bad that means that they're doing a good job. So
totally. You know what's funny is I actually met the actor, and I'm so sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he did the show Wait Until Dark at the Geffen Playhouse where I bartend, and he played a cop, a dirty cop in it, coincidentally. And he's such a nice, sweetheart guy. Like, he's one of the nicest people. And so to see him like consistently just be someone here, you're like, oh great, like what terrible, horrible thing are you going to perpetuate? Like, this is why people, when they have terrible cop stories, he's the one that they think of. Just abuse of power. He's hurting people. You're just like, he doesn't even want to protect and serve. He's kind of just going out there on his own vendetta. Tori, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like you guys, there's literally actors that I just can't even see outside of their characters because they played them so well that I'm just kind of like, every time I see them, like, I really think about their character and it just rubs me the wrong way, or it scares me. Like, when I was a kid, some actors definitely scared me and I was like, I don't ever want to meet them in my life. But yeah, he's definitely one of those characters that's like, I want you to have a job, but at the same time, I really want your character to go. And he's definitely a character, because I think in a lot of these you kind of see where the character is coming from, even if they're not like the best character. His character, no, like there's none of this is warranted. Like, you don't see where he's coming from. You just want him to go. Like, we don't even get an insight for why he's this messed up in the head. So I'm just kind of like, yes, just please get him to go. But at the same time, it does add to the dynamic. You know, you need a good balance, but I'll be fine if he leaves.
Yeah, there is no good without the evil. And he, I mean, and it's so fun. It just like, I haven't acted in a whole lot recently, but like, I would like, if this was presented to me as a performer, like, oh, this is this character, I'm like, no, like, I don't even want to portray that because I don't want to be seen in that light. But it was just it was just crazy, and that's really all I can say. But
yeah.
But going off of him for a second, one thing I did want to talk, or one of the things we're going to talk about that I thought was very interesting was just, so Dr. Kraft, I don't remember his first name, but he has his son's birthday party at his house. And what our good girl Elsa shows up at the party with her son, who's so creepy. But
that is the creepiest. That kid's got Ryan Murphy written all over him for some creepy Omen remake. That kid is just creepy. He's good. He's a great actor. He's amazing. But he always smiles, like kind of wormy little look. His eyes are just glazed over. He's sick.
Yeah, and so we're there and we see that Dr. Kraft, we knew he was a Nazi. Now at his child's birthday party, they're talking about Nazi things. And Elsa comes in and they sing this nice little beer hall song. But what really stood out to me, and this is something I think we've been curious about in this panel for a long time, is his wife. She's kind of off to the side. She's just drinking her whiskey sours. And then finally Elsa, who I think was trying to be friendly, even though she's low-key having an affair with the woman's husband. She's like, oh, where's the powder room? And she's like, oh, yo, like, before you go to the powder room, before you start measuring the curtains to see when you move in, you should ask him about his family. And he says, where do I have it? She says, ask about Hessen, his family. And so I just want to know what you guys thought of this whole interaction with the wife, and because she's such a mystery. So Tori, how did you feel about all that?
Well, first, like a part of me thought that Elsa was like trying to be funny and just kind of like stir the pot even more. But then I realized that Elsa, as soon as she came to the party, she wasn't introduced to the wife, so she probably doesn't know that that is the wife. I know that she knows of the wife, but I've never seen them interact before then. So I think that she genuinely didn't know in that moment, even though I don't know how much she does or doesn't know, because she is like, you know, a goddess in the first place. So she
Yeah.
probably did know, but I think her character didn't know. And
Yes.
so that was interesting. But like you said, the wife is just such a mystery. And I was kind of surprised that the wife was so assertive in a sense, because it just seemed like, you know, I don't know, they kind of painted it to where she was like submissive or just kind of like more laid back, you know, plays the back type of thing. So to see her go in and say, like, I know what you're up to, this is what it is, this is what it isn't, and before you start trying to move in, like, this is what you need to do, that kind of caught me off guard, because I knew that you probably knew that that Elsa was sneaking around with her husband, because I mean it was just obvious after the party. But I just really wasn't expecting that, like, that energy, to be honest, but I was here for it.
Right? Like Dr. Kraft was not subtle. Like literally she shows up in the backyard and he stops everything he's doing to go talk to her. He like tries to like she's flirting with his friend whose name was Harold Ekman. And he's obviously like just so blatantly like not okay with it. And just the whole situation. Adam, how did you feel about this party and just and their interaction and what's going on with all that?
I thought the party was very interesting because that German guy who's his friend, he was like a, you know, Billy Zane German type. He was very interesting. And then, of course, Dr. Kraft's wife, who I think we talked about this before, is Piper Perabo, who totally at first looks unrecognizable with the darker hair. But it was funny because when we were watching the pilot, I remember I pointed to my fiance and I was like, oh my God, that's Piper Perabo. And she's like, no, it's not her. She doesn't look like her. And I'm like, no, I think that might be her. But I was like, it's funny that she's in like just a smaller role because she barely said some stuff. I'm like, that's got to be her, right? But it totally is. Yeah, so I hope she's utilized more later on. And then you knew Dr. Kraft and Elsa, they had that whole sex dream from the other day. So they were finally going to consummate this with something real. So it was an upstairs, you know, birthday shtup, which was, you know, kind of interesting. Yeah, and that guy's just having sex with like a demon. Like, I don't know. It's so weird. Like, how is that real? But yeah, it was very interesting. I think his dreams and realities, whatever they are, finally came true. And every time you start to feel bad for him, you're like, oh, this poor guy. He's trying to help this woman. He doesn't know. But then you're like, oh, he's a freaking Nazi. I don't feel bad for this guy.
And he's married.
And he's
married.
already
married. So
yeah.
It's like, no, you're still a piece of crap.
Yeah, right? Like he's obviously a very icky man, but it's just so I'm just very fast. I wish we got a little more from the wife. I'm so fascinated with her because obviously she's aware of the situation she's in, but I feel like she's like what she lets happen is the lesser of two evils. So I'm very interested to see how I feel like I get too into predictions. Maybe I should just I should have a whole panel just on predicting everything. But let's move on to Detective. I can never remember his name. Lane's
Tiago, Detective Vega.
Vega, thank you. He no, not Tiago.
Just kidding.
Nathan Lane's character.
Oh, Lewis.
Lewis is not a hard name. I can never remember it. So he goes on this whole. He's been taking time off from work. He's trying to kind of get to the bottom of this other thing that's not even I'm having a random thought, a little pin of the whole, like, the first episode, we have all these murders in the LA River that have not been solved yet, by the way. We're still getting glimpses of it, but it's not really a focal point of the show or a main focal point. They bring it up. Anyway, Detective Lewis is he's at his friend's burial sites with the one gal he knows, and he meets up with Benny Berman. Tell me, you can correct me if I got his name wrong. But it's like basically the Jewish mob, and he's this gangster, and he comes in and he helps them out. And so like, I don't want to go scene by scene, but let's just generalize. I don't want to generalize either, but just go into the whole scenario with what he's getting himself into. We meet him at the cemetery. And then he's like, there's back and forth of no, yes, no. And then it gets a little darker when bring in a I'm writing everyone's names down, but there's a lot of names in this show.
It's a lot easier to remember by like face.
And they get in. Oh, sorry, please, Troy, what were you saying?
No, I was saying it's a lot easier to remember people by face, like you know exactly their whole backstory when you see them on the screen. It took me forever to learn the names of Game of Thrones, so it's okay.
I'm right there with you. It took me like my second or third watch to be like, oh, that's not the same person as that guy.
Exactly.
But Adam, what did you get out of this whole thing
with Berman?
Detective Lewis and just what he's kind of getting involved with?
So that was great. So Berman is part of Murder Incorporated or Murder Inc. That was like the Jewish mafia that was out here, run by they mentioned Meyer Lansky, who was one of the big Jewish gangsters of the time. Yeah, him with like Lucky Luciano, all those big guys in like the 20s and 30s. I'm pretty sure I'm a little rusty on this history, but I think Meyer Lansky was the one who helped fix the World Series. He made it so that the Yankees threw the World Series. Like he did that in 1927. I got to look this up and make sure. I could have just spoken a bunch of gibberish right now, so forgive my ignorance. But if Berman represents Lansky, then that means he's like one of the top people, of course, played by the affable Brad Garrett from Raymond. Very cool to see him. You always forget just how giant that man is until he stands next to someone else, like 5'10". Like, Jesus, he's huge. Very cool to see him. Obviously, he's got he's being asked to help out, and they kind of give you a little history. I love how much history and historical context this show gets to tell you, not only about how Los Angeles was formed, but the fact that they say, New York, the current mayor was LaGuardia, obviously, named the airport, a lot of stuff named after him, but because LaGuardia was half Jewish, he didn't allow German gangsters in. So none of the Nazis wanted to go to New York. They all wanted to go to the West Coast, where they would have much more ample opportunity. They think that they're going to win the war. They think that they're going to be, parading tanks down Sunset and Wilshire Boulevards. So it's interesting because Berman, played by Brad Garrett, he's talking about how like no one embraced him. He's not allowed to join any of the temples. He's not allowed to join with any of the other people because he's quote unquote a gangster. So they all don't want to help each other. And again, it also kind of feels there's a lot of historical significance right now to people with nationalism, to people saying, let's just stay on our own side. Let's take care of us. Let other people take care of their own kind, or whatever you want to say. But again, the more divided you are, the less involved you are with helping each other. If you're weaker, if you're smaller, you always get divided up and your enemies take you out faster. Tori, what do you think? I'm babbling.
No, I definitely agree. I think one thing that the show definitely does is highlight everyone's differences. In almost every episode, you're hearing somebody self-identify themselves as something that differentiates them from somebody else. And so, like you said, I definitely think it's kind of focusing on everything that divides them apart. And it's like, okay, all right. With this dynamic, I definitely want to like keep a close eye because like this is the first time we've been introduced. So I was kind of like, I didn't know too much about what was going on with them, but I definitely wanted to see like where this relationship goes. And as you say it, like it definitely makes me pay attention to the history more because like I know about the fixing of the game and stuff like that, but I wasn't paying attention to the names. And I do like how they incorporate that history, and it definitely kind of like makes you like raise an eyebrow or just kind of like tune in a little bit more. And now I'm even more intrigued to how this dynamic is going to play out.
Oh, absolutely. It's like and going off of that, it's like I want to know how everything is going to play out because it's like I think it's such a very intricately woven tapestry, the plot of this show. It's like every little thing, it's just there's a connection between so many things, and and it all comes down to our girl Natalie, and she's doing something, and so and I don't want to talk about it, but I think it needs to be mentioned is just the whole, the episode is called Josefina and the Holy Spirit. So Josefina, however your inflection, wherever your inflection lies, her and her brother Mateo are walking down the street, they have groceries, and they're just having a simple conversation. Officer Riley shows up and just really, really
at that point
ruins everyone's day. Like I'm going to be straight up. Like I was a mess after this scene. I was crying. So, Adam, how did you feel about? Not how did you feel, but like what was your takeaway from that? Because it was hard to watch.
It was very, you know what's funny? It reminded me of how uncomfortable I felt watching the Matt Dillon scene with in Crash when he stops the car, Terrence Howard and God, I'm blanking on her name. I feel like a dick. But do you remember? Pardon?
Zoe Saldana.
No, not Zoe Saldana. It's she was in blanking. I'll look it up. I'll find it. It's not Zoe Saldana. It's someone. She starred in Crash, but she plays Terrence Howard's wife. And they get pulled over by Matt Dillon, and Matt Dillon frisks her and basically does to her what Riley does to the sister. And it's a very disturbing scene because Terrence Howard can't do anything. He just has to watch, and it's so utterly disgusting. There's nothing. It's like, again, you're like, wow, well, you're absolutely just garbage. And like you said, it makes you feel like you just want to take a shower after you watch this, because now you're like, well, no wonder they hate any white person in power. Like I would too, because like the thing that you're seeing with a lot of this is like all the bad guys are white. Like that seems to be the common theme as you go back. So yeah, Tori, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever become comfortable seeing it. Like it literally feels like my stomach is like coming outside of my body and my lower half of my body is like completely tense. If I'm being quite honest, like I don't want to be like vulgar, like super graphic, but it's just what and it's I watch I've seen a lot of series. I said I watched Game of Thrones for crying out loud. So I've seen it all. But scenes like that just always make me feel so uncomfortable, and it's so crazy because I can watch someone be beheaded but I can't watch that. And it was the same. It was just something where I was watching it because I wanted to see what happened next, but I was also like low key turning my head, like I was watching it like this, like I didn't want to see but I wanted to see, you know what I mean? And it was unfortunate. And also the thing that really stuck out to me the most was how she said you can't tell mom right after. And I feel like a lot of people watching would say like, oh, like the first thing you go do is run and tell your parents, you know what I mean? Like you go and get help. But this is a very unique situation. One, because that's not always the way that not just women, that anyone copes with sexual assault. And I think everyone is always kind of like, why didn't you say anything? And I mean, some things you want to deal with on your own. Number one. Number two, this is a cop, for crying out loud. So it's like, you go tell your mom and then your mom go tell who to fix it. You know what I mean? Like when something like that happens from somebody who's in position, from the person who's supposed to protect you, nope, there's nothing to really be done to get justice unless you like do something that's illegal or could possibly get you killed, which we see ends up happening. But there's no way to really go when something like that happens. And so it just kind of stuck out and kind of spoke to the nature of the situation, to the fact that she didn't want to tell anyone.
Yeah, it was just.
By the way, oh sorry.
Please go. No, go.
Sorry, I feel bad. It's Thandie Newton, who's the actress who starred in Crash. She also starred in Mission Impossible 2. I just felt really bad because it was a scene about her suffering, and I just named the two guys that were in the scene and not the actual woman who was suffering. So it's Thandie Newton. Just want to make sure. Yeah, she was incredible.
No, thank you for that. And but yeah, it's just the scene was just like I said. I mean, not to like, oh, like I'm not being professional by breaking my emotions. I was in tears, like, and for her brother to be there and helpless and like to see it all happening. And like you said, sorry, for him, she like, don't tell mom, don't tell anybody. It's just so tragic because that still happens to this day. And it just broke my heart watching all that go down. But then she even tries to tell. It seems like she tries to tell her mom for a moment after they get into the whole fight because Mateo, they discover Mateo has become a Pachuco, and then maybe it was just obviously it was bad timing, and of course both sides of the scenario won't know that it's bad timing, but Josefina tries to tell her mom, and her mom's like, no, like I just found out your son's a gangster, we can't talk right now. But then here's another connection is she finds the church, the Church of Singing Angels or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And then Josefina, she goes to sister Molly's church and watches her sermon. And which again, especially after coming from this scene of sexual assault and police brutality to this scene where, because the last time we saw Molly doing a sermon, she sang this beautiful song and she like told this cute little story and she was all dolled up. But in this one, like the first thing I noticed was that she was very, for lack of a better term, she was very sweaty and it was a very passionate speech. And we even get a glimpse of her mom being like, what's going on? And she really gets the crowd involved. So Tori, what were your takeaways from that whole experience?
Well, first, I don't know why I noticed this the first time, but I feel like when they first showed her in the church, they didn't show the audience. It was just like all the focus was on her, or maybe I just didn't see it. But I know that even the way it was lit, it was just like the focus point was definitely Molly. This time they showed the audience and it wasn't a lot of people there, so it started to make me like question. I mean, obviously the church has a lot of influence, but it wasn't crowded. Like, it wasn't packed in there, and that kind of, I don't know why, but it made me raise an eyebrow. And I was like, I feel like a lot of their influence is coming obviously more from like the money and business side than it is actual believers, because it really wasn't that many people there. Like, even the I guess like the mezzanine level, the orchestra level of the church or building it wasn't that packed. So at first I was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Like, is this her church? What is going on? It just felt too empty for them to have this much power. But like you said, it was very, it was a lot more passionate than the first time. And I think that's why I was like, wait a minute, this is definitely shifting dynamics. Like, at first, when we first saw her, she, like you said, she's dolled up. She's lit heavenly, like it's as if she touched down from heaven herself. And then just kind of like the way that it's designed, you think that the audience was like super packed, and this one was a very raw take. Like, I don't even think the stage was that lit. We were able to see her mom in the wing. We saw the audience, and that was definitely like a good, I guess, contrast from the first time. And I don't know what like that symbolizes. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it was definitely something that I noticed. And just seeing the sister being in that audience and drawn in, I kind of felt good for the sister. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be a positive experience for her, but it made me feel like for that first time in this episode that she kind of felt like she connected with something, and that she was seen, and that she, just kind of felt wanted or felt a part of something. And I really hope that this kind of doesn't go down a dark path, but we don't know, especially with this type of show. But I felt good, because it just seemed like, even though Molly wasn't speaking to her directly, it seemed like she had someone to talk to and confide in and just kind of like feel accepted. I mean, like you said in the previous scene, her mom didn't even have the time of day to talk to her. And she probably doesn't want to talk to her brother. She can't talk to the cops. And this is the first place she kind of finds refuge. And I love that for her.
Yeah, very much true. And it was nice that we saw, she looks at the poster and discovers that church. So I was like, oh, like, that's not the church to go to. But it was good for her that she felt like she found something that was speaking to her in a moment when she needed it. So, Adam, what were your takeaways from this whole, just the sermon, this mega church, and how everybody's reactions were to everybody else?
Well, first, it was funny. I thought Molly Jean, like Sister Molly, she looked like she was going through withdrawal. Like, she had like the Coke sweats. I don't know what was going on, but it was like, she was like, it was either she was on something or she was feeling something. And then kind of like what Tori said before, if you have a problem with a cop, especially back then, who are you going to go to? Like, what's your chain of command to try and make something better? So you have both Josefina and Mateo, the younger siblings, are dealing with traumatic events, and they're both veering off to groups that can maybe help them or give them a way to empower themselves again. And they can't do that with their own families, and they can't do that with local law enforcement. So they're kind of both being pushed into another group or like family that might embrace them. And I think, just like most cults or whatever, they're going to choose to be there, because they're going to go, these are the only people who understand me. These are the only people who seem to get what I'm going through. And no one's telling me that I'm crazy, and no one's telling me that I just have to take it. And that's how it is. So I feel like she's going to become deeply religious. For a little foreshadowing, she might become a nun. She could become saintly. She's going to go the path of like virtue and pacifism. And I feel like Mateo is going to go full on violent. he'll, and I mean, but if you were in his decision, like if you were in his place, would you think that he's going too far? Because if you just watch someone put their hands on your sister or do all that and you couldn't do anything, the first thing you'd think of is, I want to be in a position where I can hurt people who just prey on the weak. I get it. Like, it sucks because then they're probably going to get the short end of the stick in the end, and it's just going to keep sucking. But you definitely have both characters where they feel completely out of control with their lives, and they're seeking places that make them feel like they're safe again.
Yeah, that's 100% valid, and it's like you can't. Unfortunately, I mean, obviously it's a TV show, but all we can do is put ourselves in that situation. Like, how would we have handled it? And you're absolutely right, Adam. They both have just experienced such extremes that it's like, what is the right answer? And it really is crazy. And that's something, and that leads me into the next thing I want to talk about is Mateo's involvement. He has this tattoo now. He's a Pachuco. He's hanging out with Rico Suave.
Rico Suave? Is that what you're going
right?
for? Rico Suave?
He's hanging out with Fly Rico. He's hanging out with Rio. And we get this scene where they beat the crap out of Officer Riley, and ultimately Mateo kills him. So like, talk to me, Adam.
That was such an amazing scene. That was one of those scenes where I'm like, oh wow. And they're just like, he's, cutting the throat, and you're like, all right, once or twice, and he just keeps going. And like, you see Riley's face. It was, I mean, I gotta tell you, that was a wonderfully disgusting scene, because that officer, I'm sorry, he had it coming for a long time.
He had it coming.
But yeah, the fact too at the end that they drop off his naked, beaten, dead body in front of the police station, my first thought was, oh, now the cops are just going to start killing anyone, because once you kill a cop, I mean, in their code, that's it. And now it's just open season. But also at the same time, they needed to send a message and just say, you can't just mess with us whenever you want, because no matter how many guns or batons, whatever you guys have, there's infinitely more of us than there are of you. And like, it's just like what Fly Rico said, there's a whole city of me. There might be 50, 100 of you, but in the end, you're not going to win. So it was, Tori, what about you? Did you, how did you feel?
Y'all, I got a little nervous. And this is why, because, of course, like in movies, when somebody's like a trained killer, not a trained, but like, professional, they've done it before type of thing, one slit is pretty much like all they need. But I think we can all tell, like, if we ever seen a movie where somebody has like their first kill, you realize how hard it is to slit someone's throat or take their head off. And I was nervous that because this was his first time, that like he wasn't going to necessarily win. And I think we kind of saw that when he was trying to slit his throat, like the first couple of times, Riley was actually in a way fighting back. Like he was still able to move the brother off of him. He was still able to kind of put up some resistance. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to go south. Like, this is his first body, and this is, he got a thick neck. So I was like, this might not end well. But I was glad to see that it did. And then when they dropped off his body, I was like, oof, this is just going to, like you said, Adam, this is definitely going to, I don't want to say start the war, because I definitely think it's already started. Like, you can see that they're just kind of doing whatever they want to each other. But this is definitely going to heighten it, knowing that one of the cops who's now died. It's going to be a free for all. Like, I definitely think it's going to be just like do whatever you please. But it was nice that Mateo got that personal revenge. Like, even if something happens to him, I feel like, he can move away from the situation knowing that he at least did something.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think, not to like juvenilize it, but I think Mateo is just like, I mean, he's supposed to be a younger character. I think he's just kind of going through like a lot of puberty, and just like trying to find his place and trying to find his role and his path. But at the same time, but going off of what you just said, Tori, about him, this is the first person, as far as we know, this is the first person he's killed. But then again, in the first and I'm worried for him, but in the first episode, his brother Raul literally shoots like 5 cops and just goes to the hospital and comes home and is apparently fine. So I think it's like a time thing. Like, there aren't body cams, there isn't security footage, there isn't so much tech to like get him. So I'm hoping, because I love Mateo, I'm hoping he's safe for now. But it just seems like he just seems like really mixed up and confused and doesn't know. And there's this race war in his family, and he just wants to do the right thing. And I think just doesn't know how. But you guys, we're pressing time, so let's Tori, let's jump into our special segment for this week.
Yeah, so I'm super excited for this special segment this week because actually Molly said Rose and in this episode. So I was like, wow, she watches the show. JK. But yes, it's time for our special segment, which is called our Rose and Thorn of the Week. And you just kind of share a positive, which would be your rose, and a thorn, which is kind of like something negative or something that, you know, didn't really make you feel well this week. So who wants to go first today?
I'll jump in. So I'll start with my thorn. My thorn this week is, I mean, I don't want to point out because we're on camera, but I actually have a bit of a little eye thing going on. I have like a little sty or something. Don't look at it. But it's and it's just like, it's not super bad, but it's just uncomfortable. And it's like every day I wake up and I'm just like, so it just kind of puts me in a mood. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel as like energetic and like ready to like get my day started and do it. Even though it's literally just like a simple thing. Like I'm not ill. I don't have a fever. I'm not I don't have this virus that we're all worried about. It's just like my eyeball makes me feel sad and uncomfortable. But it just affects my mood. But then my rose for this week is we're here, I think I said this the first week, like I'm doing all these after shows that just keep me busy, and I'm so thankful for it. My roommate's been out of town. She was at her family's house. She's here now. So it's kind of like I was alone for a couple weeks. So now I have somebody to, did I disappear for a second?
You turned off your video. You hate it. We get it.
But I'm not alone anymore. I have some company. So that's giving me a little more life.
That's great. Adam, what are your rose and thorns of the week?
Gosh, you know what? I'm working this really cool show. I plugged it before on my show, and I'll plug it here. It's my rose. It's called The Present, and it's with the Geffen Playhouse. And this guy is Helder Guimarães. He's this Portuguese magician. And it's a really cool, it's done through Zoom. It's like a magic show that is digital, interactive. It's only 25 people per show. They just extended this through August 16th, The Present. It is so cool. It's just a great way to feel like connected to certain people, or like just to see magic. It makes you feel like anything's possible again, which when you're running through the day-to-day of just like, what am I gonna do now? And you feel kind of like, ugh, like it's just nice to have a little different thing. Thorn, I'm not sure. I have a very loving but aggressive cat who sometimes wakes me up in very passive aggressive ways to feed him in the morning. And he'll just knock stuff off and scare the crap out of me. And then I'll jump out of bed, and he's managed to scamper across the room, and he's just sitting there perfectly with his tail tucked around his legs. And he just kind of has this inner monologue, look at me like, well, I don't know what just happened. That's so weird. Oh, but you're up now. So since you're up, maybe you should feed me. And I never thought I would be a cat person, but I'm just noticing, yeah, I mean, that's as thorny as it gets, but I love him. But, he scares the crap out of me at 4:45 a.m. So what can I say?
I can imagine. I think mine last week really tried to like test me. It really tried to count me out. And I don't know why I was doing that. And I just kind of wasn't like feeling my best, but I do think that going into this week, like I feel a lot better. And I think I'm also going to have the opportunity to see my family soon. So that's it, like as close as I can. But so I'm super excited about that, just because everything that's been going on, I haven't seen much of anyone, like I'm sure the rest of us have. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, that closes out our segment of roses and thorns. If you guys want to leave in the comments some roses or even some thorns that you guys have experienced in this week, throughout quarantine, throughout this year, throughout your life, we're happy to read them. We're happy to interact with you guys. So please drop those below, and we'll be sure to read them.
By the way, real quick, can I just say Michael Gladys playing Councilman Townsend, who hooked up with the Nazi?
Yes.
And told him that he wanted to be bottom. And I know, like, because Michael Gladys to me is such a great dramatic actor, but ironically, because he's so good at playing serious, there are a lot of moments that are comical, like in the show, which I know is not like he's so funny when he's just like in the back of the car and the Nazis driving. I'm just like,
Oh my God.
I let them blow me. I don't even, I don't have time for women. They just blow me. It was so funny that he's like, just like trying to make peace with this Nazi who he thinks is going to kill him and just says like, they just blow me. I don't do anything. Like, they're gay. I'm not gay. It's so funny. I don't know why, but it's those moments. Like, it's a very serious show and there's very serious moments. Obviously we've discussed them, but sometimes Councilman Townsend, he's like my favorite part. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's
No, that's
definitely a funny character. He's just like he's basically like a puppet, but in the times where he's not being a puppet, you can just tell he just doesn't know what to say in the situation, which does make it funny because everybody's thinking for him. So when he does have to think for himself, it just doesn't formulate into sentences at all.
Oh, so good.
But no, I'm glad you brought it up because that was a hysterical moment where it's like he's basically pleading for his life, but it's just like, dude. And then it leads to this whole thing where it's like, oh my gosh, what is his name? The actual Nazi. I wrote it down. My notes are so terrible. And then they're filming it. So it's like they're like, and it's very valid. They're like protecting him, but also blackmailing him to keep him
now
on
they have
their
footage. So no matter what, he's always going to have to work for them.
Oh yeah. And it was just so it's just that you mentioned to us before that his story arc is just so dramatic, and we're only in episode 4, right? Correct? Yes. Like you said, Tori, like this is what's already happened. There's so much more. Which we'll go into now. I don't know what to expect. What I was gonna say, but we'll go into predictions. Like, what do you guys think is coming up? Adam or Tori, you already said up, so you please say
I was just gonna say that I definitely want to see like how Molly is connected to this murder. It was so weird because I definitely had her painted as like, okay, maybe she is, just the face of the church and she has nothing to do with the dirty business and she is trying to, I guess, live this pure lifestyle. I mean, she had a bodyguard that's supposed to protect her virtue, apparently, but he must take a lot of days off because she was having a whole affair. So that was just kind of like surprising, just seeing her switch between like, oh, like my life is so hard, I just want a day off from being perfect, to don't make me feel bad that I had an affair and now he's missing. And I was like, wait, first of all, you invited Tiago on a date. He did not invite you on a date. So you can't be mad at him because now he has feelings and doesn't know that you had this side to you when you didn't like reveal this until now. So I definitely want to see like if she's connected. I think she knows something. I'm not sure if she killed him, but I think she definitely knows something. And so seeing that character flip, something more is going to happen there around this like secret house that nobody knew about. Of course, with this show, like predictions pretty much are all over the place, but that's the only one that I feel like I can stand behind.
Oh yeah. How about you, Adam?
I don't even know, Cody. I don't even know where to go from here. I feel like Townsend's gonna do a lot more. Elsa and Dr. Kraft are gonna get kinkier. Mateo's gonna probably kill some more people. Tiago's gonna try and solve the case while getting closer to Molly. I have a feeling she's gonna die. I don't know. Now that Riley's gone, who's gonna be the new bad racist white cop? I don't know. There's so many. And I don't know. That's about it. I hope we get to meet Meyer Lansky down the line. That'd be pretty cool to see like who they might get to play him. But I think that's where I'm gonna. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it.
Yeah, I am on board with all of that from both of you. I think again, I'm expecting Kraft's wife to come in and like really stir the pot and not be just a silent whiskey drinker in the corner.
Oh, she's gonna kill herself. She's gonna kill herself. You know that.
Kill herself?
Oh yeah, she's gonna jump off the roof. She's gonna do something dramatic. Mark my word. There's something kooky.
That is a proclamation. All right.
You don't bring back someone like Piper Perabo for a smaller role unless she's gonna have a crazy suicide. That's gonna be cool.
This is true.
Right? She's gonna make a statement for sure. Molly, like you said, Tori, there's more to her. She's like the figurehead of this crazy cult, so something's gonna happen there. One thing you kind of brought it up for a second, Adam, was was Frank, the creepy boy. He told that ghost story about that girl.
Oh
and
my
I
God,
feel like-
yes. With the wires and the eyes open. It was the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So good.
I just feel like whenever he talks, it's like either foreshadowing or there's something. He's not just there to be creepy. Like, I feel like the words he says are relevant to something that is in like the bigger picture, not so specific. And then I think Detective Lewis is smart, but we're seeing that he's actually kind of a dirty cop, even though he's being dirty for the greater good. So we'll see where all of this goes. And then we didn't really talk about Tiago, but I feel like we're going to see what happens with him, Molly. But then his brother Raul, who was brought back from the dead, apparently, every time he only has like one scene. So I think he's going to come in at some point and make a big deal. So we'll see how it all goes.
I concur.
But so you guys, thank you so much. But where can we find you outside of this panel, Miss Tori?
Yes, you guys can find me on Instagram at Toxic Model or on Twitter at Tori with 2 E's, and definitely click around the AfterBuzz website and just find some of the articles that I have written, because I really appreciate if you guys read them, or click around to YouTube and find the show that tickles your fancy, because we probably covered it already. So, find some more entertainment.
Yes, seriously. And how about you, Adam?
Hey guys, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Horribly Hollywood Single. Just filmed a new episode today, gonna be up. Really funny with director James Kicklater. Absolutely hysterical. You're gonna love his bad date story. Horribly Hollywood Single. And if you guys ever want to share your own bad dates, horriblyhollywoodsingle@gmail.com. I'm Adam Carr. Would love to chat.
Perfect. And then I'm Cody. You can find me on Instagram at CodyEpp, CodyYYEPP. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. You give us a reason to be here and doing this. So thank you again, and we will be back next week at the same time to discuss